This is an 8-inch diameter Schmidt-Cassegrain telescope. It has a motor in it, which allows it to stay fixed on an object, to track an object in the sky as the Earth moves beneath it. We rigged it up on top of this dolly, so up at Sky Mountain, it can be moved around easily. There's a toolbox down here in the dolly tray that has everything in it that you will need to set up the telescope. The first thing you need to do is take off the dust cap and put it in the dolly tray. And next, take off the dust caps from the finder scope. And put them in the toolbox. Next, you install the diagonal. You take off the little dust cap from the back of the telescope. Take off the dust caps on the diagonal. Put them away in the toolbox. And tighten this little nut here. Slide the diagonal in, tighten the nut. Next, you install the eyepiece. Take off its dust caps. Put them in the toolbox. Again, a little nut right here. Slide that in. Tighten it up. Now, you can look at it from the top, but if you're out there with kids who are shorter, you can untighten that little nut there and then go like that. You can adjust it for the height of the children that are going to be looking through it. After you've got it where you want it, you just tighten that up. You have to tighten this snugly and hold on to this while you're making these adjustments, because this can just fall out. So be sure when you put that in there, you get that nice and snug where you want it. Also in the toolbox is your power cord, which you plug into the back of the telescope, like that. Now, to power the telescope, you could run an extension cord out to it and just plug it in. However, you're going to be outside at night with a bunch of kids running around in the dark, so you're probably not going to want to do that. Well, we have supplied a battery with this telescope, and I'll show you how to set that up. Now, this is the battery. This is an inverter. You need that because the telescope's motor is running on AC power, whereas the battery is DC. So you need to change the DC to the AC, and you do that with this inverter. So you take the plug from the telescope and you plug it into the inverter, okay, like that. And then you take these two clips coming off of the other end of the inverter and matching red to red and black to black. You want the black on the black. And then you want the, and then the red on the red. Okay, now the motor should be running. Once you get set up, you're going to want to aim the forks of the telescope directly at the North Star. You get lined up with it. Okay? After you have the telescope lined up, you'll want to install the wheel chocks. These will help keep the telescope secure. You'll also notice on the legs of the telescope these light-colored stripes. That's glow tape. It'll glow in the dark, and that'll help you and the kids to see the legs so you don't bump into them. The telescope operates on two axes, vertical and the horizontal. These two levers are your locks for the horizontal and the vertical. To find an object, you look through the finder scope, unlocking the two locks. Get your object. You want to get it as close as you can to the center of the crosshairs in the finder scope. Once you got it there, lock it, okay? Then come back and look through the eyepiece. When you first see your object, it will probably be out of focus. This is the focusing knob. You use this to focus your object. Also, your object will probably not be centered perfectly. To get it centered in the field of view on the vertical, you have a fine motion control knob here. You leave this locked. Then use this knob to move the scope up and down to center the object vertically. So leave this locked. On the horizontal, however, you have to unlock it to center it. So you grab a hold of the fine motion control knob here. You unlock it, center the object by turning the knob, lock it, and now the telescope will be tracking the object. If it's not tracking, if the object appears to be moving in the field of view, then you probably have a bad connection in the wiring between the battery and the motor and the telescope. So check your connections. Typically that will happen with the alligator clips on the battery. I've had that happen. So you have to jiggle them a little bit to make sure they make a good connection. Also, during your viewing session with the kids, you'll want to look through the eyepiece yourself once in a while to make sure your object is staying centered. It's very easy to nudge the telescope and knock your object out of the field of view. It's easily fixable with the horizontal control. Just unlock it, bring it back in, lock it back up again. But you want to monitor that throughout your viewing session. At the end of your viewing session, put the dust cover back on the front of the telescope. Put the dust caps back on the finder scope. Take out the eyepiece. Put its dust caps back on. Stow it away. Take out the diagonal. Put its dust caps back on. And stow it away. And this is very important. Put this cap back here because you don't want any dust or moisture getting inside the telescope because that could mess up the optics. Next, unclip the alligator clips from the battery. Unplug the power cord from the inverter. Unplug the power cord from the back of the telescope. Put the power cord away. Stow the wheel chocks away. And you're done. Now a file with instructions for the telescope, the battery charger, the inverter, okay, and the headlamp is going to be left up there at Sky Mountain for your reference. If you have any questions or any problems with any of this, please don't hesitate to call Jeff Baldwin at the Stockton Astronomical Society. He'll be happy to help you out. When you're out in moist air, dew will sometimes form on the surface of the lens of the telescope. This dew shield will help prevent that from happening. It has a Velcro strip on the top and a Velcro strip on the bottom, and a piece of rubber down the bottom here. You attach it like this. You wrap it around the telescope. Attach the Velcro, and pull it out until that rubber strip on the bottom gets snug around the rim of the telescope. And there, that should help you with the dew problem. In the toolbox, you'll find a red light headlamp. The following is an instruction from Orion Telescope on how to operate it.
Hello, I'm Ken with Orion Telescopes and Binoculars, and this is the Orion Red Beam LED Motion Sensing Headlamp. First of all, it's a headlamp, and that's like almost indispensable, right? You're setting up all your equipment, you need both hands to turn that screw or to clamp that dovetail, and you don't want to hold your flashlight. That's what I end up doing all the time. I hold the flashlight in my mouth, and that's just unsanitary, and it's hard to not drool around the edges as you're trying to keep a seal in your mouth. So this is a no-brainer. It's a great thing to have for setting up your equipment. It's red LED, obviously, so I'm going to try to do this without blinding the camera. So you've got 4 brightnesses, 5, that's 10 here, 50, and then 100% brightness. So you can get really bright when you're setting up or you're breaking down for the night, and then off, obviously. You can adjust the lamp's angle so it either goes straight out or down at whatever angle you want here. And the coolest feature, at least for me, is the motion sensing part of this. Let's say you're out there, you've got your gloves on, it's really cold, it's hard to find this little button here to turn it on and off, especially with thick gloves on. So you can set it to motion sensing. You just press the power button for 2 seconds, and now it's in motion sensing mode, which means I just swipe my hand in front of it, and it turns it on or it turns it back off. So working with your equipment, you just do this, it's on, and then when you're done, swipe it and it's off. Now you might wonder, well, what if I just turn my head a lot, and how does movement out in the distance not turn it on and off constantly when I don't want it to? Well, the sensors in this thing are angled down to about 4 inches in front of me. So as you can see right now, nothing's turning it on. I can't even turn it on with my hand here. You bring it up here and it turns it on, and it turns it off. So about 4 inches in front of you is where you want to be for the on-off. The headlamp operates off of 3 AAA batteries. It's a really quick, easy clip to open up to get to the batteries, so you don't need any tools. Just 3 AAAs do it, and it's a little LED. It's very efficient, so these batteries last a long time, as long as you remember to turn it off when you're done. All right, well, there you have it. This is the Orion Red Beam LED Motion Sensing Headlamp.
To charge the battery, you first plug the little converter into a power source, and you'll notice that this little light is green. You now take the little alligator clips, red to red and black to black, and attach to the battery. You'll notice that the lights stay green. That's because this battery is new and fully charged. If it were not fully charged, this light would be yellow. So when you first attach it, you get a yellow light, you leave it on until it turns green, and then you detach it and you're done. To store the telescope away after you're done with it, you could simply put a bag over it and roll it into your storeroom, or store it away in the box that it came in. To store the telescope in the box, you first unloosen these 3 wing nuts on the back of the telescope, and the bottom 2 you take completely out. After you've taken off the bottom 2 wing nuts and unloosened the top one, you simply lift the telescope off of the wedge. You'll see a little notch there where that top wing nut goes. So when you're ready to reinstall, you simply put that over, tighten it a bit, not snugly because you'll need to leave a little room to work this back and forth, and then reinstall your bottom 2 wing nuts and then tighten them all 3 up.